Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most, just ask your girlfriends and your wives. If I was waking up this morning and I was shooting gatwa, I would feel utterly betrayed by the BBC and Disney. So for days and days now, since this broke, you guys have been asking me to talk about this situation. But what's the situation, Mick? Yes, some of you may not be on the internet all the time. You may not know. So anyway, Ncuti Gatwa, our current doctor, did an interview on the Graham Norton show. He was asked if he was going to be in season 3 of Doctor Who. He said yes, and I'm happy to be involved with season 3 of Doctor Who, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing now. That was cut out of the interview. What's very, very interesting to me, that Norton even asked the question. Maybe Norton was being naughty, even though he works for the BBC. Maybe he was hoping he could squeeze that answer in. Maybe Gatwa and Norton worked on this together to try and pressure the BBC to commission another season. Who knows? But of course, I'm just guesstimating. I'm just conspiracy theorying here. So I don't know. So basically, the BBC cut the part where he said he would be in season 3. Now, that wasn't enough for the BBC. They came out and said that Gatwa's comments were wide of the mark. So this is crazy. They've actually contradicted what their lead actor from their show has said. This is insane. I mean, it's happened before with certain things in certain situations within the entertainment industry, but it is a crazy situation. So what's actually going on here? Well, Russell T Davies has already said there will not be any comment, any official renewal or information or announcement on season 3 of Doctor Who until season 2 finishes broadcasting. This makes perfect sense, because they want to wait and examine the numbers properly, because it is all about the numbers, because they've got a huge issue here. And don't forget something else, actors are always the last to know. Ncuti Gatwa won't have a clue. Ncuti Gatwa, I think, has signed a contract for 3 seasons. They all do 3 seasons since the show came back, apart from Christopher Eccleston. And if he didn't fall out with RTD and the rest of them, I think he would have done another 2 seasons as well. What a tragedy he didn't. The rest of them have all done 3 seasons, not including their specials. So I'm assuming that Ncuti has also signed for 3 seasons. It makes sense. And when Ncuti's asked, he's very enthusiastic about the show and says he wants to stay as long as possible. Of course, Matt Smith said he wanted to beat Tom Baker's record and never got to do that. He quit after 3 series as well. That was interesting as well. But this is actually very interesting, because there seems to be a difference of opinion here. As I've already said, actors don't really know what's going on. But what this goes back to is that series 1 of Doctor Who was a flop on the iPlayer and on BBC One Live and on Disney+. There is no denying that anymore. This is a fact. Now, the BBC and Russell T Davies came out with their cope and said, we're very happy with our target audience. The people we wanted to see it saw it. Well, who saw it? Doctor Who fans like me? Older people like me? Because they're claiming younger people in their late 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s were watching it. I don't think anyone under 30 was watching it. They claim, actually, I think, that, people under 30 and younger people were watching it. I don't believe them. Their target audience would have been the sex education lot. That's why Ncuti Gatwa was cast. Let me explain to you what happened, because I know a lot of people, especially young women, who loved Ncuti in sex education. They came in, watched a few specials to prepare themselves for Ncuti coming in, watched the first episode of series 1 and said, right, we love you, Ncuti, but this isn't for us. Well, in fact, series 1 of Doctor Who wasn't for everyone. I think we were stunned from those 4 specials. When you've got a genius like Russell T Davies, and whatever's happened with RTD2, he's still a genius. He's still the genius who saved Doctor Who, brought it back kicking and screaming into the 21st century. I'll say that on my deathbed. You know, I don't have any personal issue with RTD. He's still my creative hero. But, you know, when we watched this, it didn't feel like Russell T Davies had a free hand at creating new Doctor Who. And for me, the only place where we should assign blame for this whole situation is Disney. But they didn't go and just wake up one morning and say, oh, let's fund Doctor Who. The BBC, Bad Wolf, RTD went to Disney cap in hand, because the days of BBC America financing Doctor Who has gone. The beauty of BBC America financing Doctor Who, the selection of companies that BBC America is, were fine with giving RTD, Moffat, even Chibnall, a free creative hand. I mean, you've got to give it to them, whether you like the Timeless Children or not, to actually allow him to do that and destroy Doctor Who forever and drive away so many members of the audience and, you know, long-running fans, was very brave of them, because it was suicidal, really, wasn't it? But they, you know, I like the fact that RTD, Chibnall and Moffat had creative freedom. But what was clear from the specials and Series 1 of Doctor Who was that there was no creative control here for RTD. RTD even admitted certain instances where Disney gave some good notes, where they wanted to see more of Ncuti's Doctor early on in one episode. They were good notes. But he only let that slip, even if that's true, to make us think, isn't it good that Disney is giving RTD notes? Maybe he was worried it was going to leak out and we were going to find out. Reverse psychology, because let's get one thing absolutely clear. Russell T Davies is a very intelligent man, and everything he says is for a definitive reason. So that's why he let slip, or accidentally and purposely let slip, about getting notes from Disney. I believe the creative problems that have come ever since the charity special, where Davros was out of the wheelchair and Russell T Davies was saying, you know, we at the BBC and on the production have wanted to, you know, not to spread the stereotype of bad, evil people being in wheelchairs. But it's a nonsense. And I don't think that was coming from RTD. That was coming from Disney. The way they changed the sonic screwdriver as well must have come from Disney. That's not RTD. RTD was running Doctor Who for 5 years with a pointy sonic screwdriver, and he didn't give a shit. He's a Doctor Who fan. And I think behind closed doors he would have been horrified. But Russell T Davies has a problem, because he's not being financed by BBC America anymore. He's being financed by the Americans, by Disney. And if he doesn't do what they say, if he doesn't obey their notes, there's no money from Disney, and then there's no Doctor Who show. So I don't blame Russell T Davies for what's gone wrong with RTD2. I don't believe if he had a free creative hand that RTD would have gone in the direction he did. But even if he went down that direction, there would have been more meat in the sandwich. For example, you know, Ruby Sunday had nothing. There was no meat in Ruby's sandwich. She was an empty companion. The whole thing that they were blatantly teasing that this person could make it snow. I mean, it was ridiculous, and she was just an ordinary human being. It was boring. It was bland. I get the messaging behind it. I get it. Oh, look, she's just an amazing human being. I get it. But when you're winding people up for a whole season, no one's going to be happy with her just being an ordinary human being. She was an empty shell. She was a crap companion. And let's get this clear. Millie Gibson is a great actor. We saw her all on Corrie. She's amazing. She's an amazing, beautiful young actor. And she was done dirty. Now, she'll be recurring her role in Series 2. Now, is it Verada Setu who's going to be replacing Millie as the companion? If I've got her name wrong, I apologise. I'm not very good with names, as you know. And I actually follow Verada on Instagram. and she's very, very, she stands with Palestine, and she puts up the pictures of what's going on, a bit like what Charlotte Church does. I'm sure that will be controversial for some, and people like the fandom menace will use that to their advantage. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything controversial with saying you stand with Palestine. Personally, I stand with Palestine, but I also stand with the innocent Israeli people who have been put in danger by their own leadership. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, by the way. And, people have attacked Rachel Zegler for saying the same thing. I don't particularly like Zegler and all the disrespectful things she says, but I don't think saying you stand with Palestine, stand with Palestinian women and children, with what's going on and how those people are suffering, I don't think that's a controversial statement at the end of the day. Maybe these people should steer away from these public statements, but I think because they're in the public eye, they hope they can put pressure on these governments to do something about it. Unfortunately, you're not the TV stars and movie stars of the 70s and the 80s or even the 30s, 40s. You don't have that power. You're not stars with influence. You're just people on the telly and on the cinema screen now. Things have changed. But anyway, I think Verada was really good in that one episode we saw her. And, this is the pressure now. Season 2 has to be very, very good. It needs to bring people back to Doctor Who. It really does. And if it doesn't do that, I fear Doctor Who will be cancelled. Unless they can find another kind of sponsor, financer. And that's going to be difficult. Because I wonder how many other streamers and American companies they approached before they went to Disney. It wouldn't surprise me if Disney was their last port of call. That maybe they wanted too much money, and people like Netflix would have been perfect, in a way. I mean, you wouldn't want, when you think about the Rings of Power and you think about Amazon, maybe not. They're just as bad as Disney, really. But look, there's no perfect solution. Once you go to the Americans, I think Netflix are better for creatives because they allow the creative of each show and each movie to do their thing. I think there's more of a freedom there. So that's why I think Netflix would have been better. Even Sky TV would have been a better arrangement. But there's no question about it. This whole controversy about Ncuti Gatwa saying he's going to be in season 3 and then the BBC cutting that out and saying those comments were wide of the mark. What does that mean for Ncuti? Are Disney not happy with him? Well, they're not happy that the toys from RTD2 are not selling, the merch isn't selling, and Doctor Who is dead. This wasn't in the script. RTD was supposed to come back and save Doctor Who, and he hasn't. And to be fair to RTD, he's taking all the blame for what's gone wrong. But again, it's not really his fault. He's getting, they're getting financed by Disney. We know what Disney's motivations are, what their politics are. And it's all over RTD2. It's all there. So if you're wondering why it's so bad and there's so much propaganda and extremism since RTD's come back and he's been quite disrespectful of the fans, well, that's what Disney do, isn't it? That's what Disney employees do. They disrespect the fans. It's the new age, isn't it? This is what happens. They all do it now, don't they? They all give us the middle finger. We're in charge. We're the customers. If we don't consume your product, you don't have a product. Without us, you've got nothing. But they can't keep their mouths shut. And I've said it before. There must be a muzzle put on these people. For example, Ncuti Gatwa telling people to go and eat grass. Now, if there are racist fans out there who abuse Ncuti or anyone else who's diverse or has a diverse background, that's wrong. And Ncuti, in a way, has every right to say, go and eat grass. But from the outside looking in, I speak to a lot of fans. There wasn't any complaints about Ncuti being a black man playing the Doctor. I think the day he was announced, he was pretty much well embraced. I didn't get any hate from it. Yeah, there may have been a few saying, oh, the Doctor should be white, blah, blah, blah. But even that's not incredibly that racist, right? It's like people saying, the England football manager should be English. It's not particularly racist, it's just a view, right? Because there's been a tradition of white Englishmen playing the Doctor. Now, I don't think if you've got a character who can regenerate into any humanoid, why it can't be a black guy, why it can't be a woman. It can literally be anyone, can't it? So I don't see the problem there. But, you know, when you think about, you know, Jodie being cast, there was a huge backlash there, huge. There was no such kind of backlash for Ncuti Gatwa. So I don't know why he was saying in interviews they can go and eat grass. It was ridiculous. And already you're creating a divide. There is a divide between the industry and the governor, the boss, us, the viewer, the fan. And I think the industry needs to start gagging these people legally by contracts, that they can only talk about the project they're promoting and positively, and be careful of the questions they answer. Because what's happened here is the media have become very mischievous now. A lot of the questions are not about the project, they're about politics, about everything else but the project they're supposed to be promoting. And the only way to change the media's mischievousness is to make sure that the actors legally can't say certain things. It's the only way. And until the industry does this, this industry isn't going to heal, because this industry is in a lot of trouble. I speak to a lot of writer friends of mine from English television, from in Hollywood, and the industry has shrunk. There's not enough work to go around. Now, of course, this industry are throwing out some coke, blaming COVID and the strikes, but it's simply not true. It's because they've run the industry into the ground. They swapped broadcast TV for streaming. Look at what Apple TV's doing, making some great dramas and movies. The movies they're making should be released to cinemas, but they're on Apple TV. They're killing cinema. So basically, streaming is a concern that's losing money. And because they've embraced streaming, and they continue to do so, even though it's losing money, they're robbing from cinemas, so cinemas are losing money, so everyone is dying out there, and there's not enough money to have enough projects out there. So they've done this to themselves. But in terms of Doctor Who's a great example of current day entertainment mentality. No, Doctor Who isn't dying because a black man is playing the Doctor. No, Doctor Who isn't dying because a woman was playing the Doctor. Doctor Who is almost dead because of creative bankruptcy. And we saw that with Chibnall. There were some good things Chris did as well, to be fair. It wasn't all bad, but he wasn't very good with the fans, and the way he spoke, saying things like this is not a democracy, you know. Well, in reality, you know, entertainment isn't a democracy, but when you need audiences to buy what you're selling, you've got to speak in a certain way. And that's what they used to do. But they no longer do that anymore, and there lies the problem. They're too vocal, they're too direct, and they're too honest. You can't be honest with the customer. You can't tell the customer you hate them. You've got to pretend that you love them, or you don't have a relationship between the industry and the fans. And we need to heal the wounds between both parties, or there isn't going to be an industry. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm so passionate about entertainment, television, film. You know how much I love my DC movies and TV shows, and you know, all the great entertainment shows, TV shows from the past, right? I grew up around entertainment, watching entertainment. I love it. I'm so passionate about it. I want it to thrive, but it's not thriving because the people who have taken over the industry, the people making the decisions, I wouldn't trust to bring me a hot cup of tea. If I asked them to make me a cuppa, it will be stone cold before I fucking got it. This is the problem. I was talking to a writer on Twitter who was complaining about not having enough work. He was standing up for the CW. He goes, yeah, the CW, who he wrote for, had issues, he said, but, you know, we all had jobs and we were entertaining people. And I wrote this big, you know, kind of post, and he said, spot on. This was an experienced writer talking to me. And I basically said everything that I've just said and everything I've been saying on my platform since I started this platform. And Doctor Who is also a victim of this situation. The reason the BBC cut out what Ncuti said, Because if the ratings were strong, right, if they were as happy with the kind of demographic who came in, if they felt Doctor Who was in a healthy situation, consumer-wise and viewers-wise and ratings-wise, they would have announced the Series 3 already. The fans know it. You know, everyone knows. The BBC knows it. Disney knows it, that we may not get a season 3. Or at the very least, we won't get a season 3 financed by Disney. Now, that's the problem. The people at Disney, I wouldn't trust to bring me a hot cup of tea because they're idiots. They're so obsessed with their own politics and their agendas that they ruin the entertainment that they own. They've ruined Star Wars. Well, it was ruined as soon as they got their hands on it. They've ruined the MCU from at first, in the early days of Disney owning Marvel Studios, they let Kevin Feige do whatever he wanted. But then after Endgame, they started policing him. They made him become very political. And, DEI set in, even at Marvel Studios. That wouldn't have been Kevin Feige's choice. He was running it perfectly. But then he started saying shit like there's going to be more female heroes than men soon. I mean, what a fucking stupid thing to do. And Kathleen Kennedy having a t-shirt on saying the Force is female. Why can't you just say the Force is male and female? It's like Ghostbusters 2016. Why couldn't we have had 2 male Ghostbusters and 2 female Ghostbusters? I'm all for diversity, but I'm not for extremism. And what's going on in the industry, in the world today, is extremism. Make no mistake about it. I'm a fair person. If a black person is the best person for the job in any industry, or a diverse person, whether they're gay, black, Indian, Asian, whatever, right? If that person's the best, most talented person for the job, of course they should get the job. What's happened, especially in the entertainment industry, they keep on giving work, executive roles, in studios and TV networks and streamers to diverse figures, whether they're qualified or not. And this is where the problem lies. So, is Ncuti Gatwa a good actor? Yes, but predominantly Ncuti is good at being Ncuti. Ncuti in Sex Education was good at being Ncuti. And I think the big mistake that Disney, RTD and the BBC made with Ncuti is not giving him the freedom. I think one of the great things I loved as a kid watching Eddie Murphy, being this crazy zany comedian in Beverly Hills Cop, creating these caricatures. And this is what they should have allowed Ncuti Gatwa to do. Go in there, son. Do your thing. Throw bags of personality around it. And it's interesting because Tennant's final episode in his final special, when they do the bi-generation, I didn't like that episode until Ncuti turned up. I thought Ncuti's performance was excellent and it felt very RTD, old school RTD, and I thought, yeah, this could work. It's only after when Ncuti basically was starring as the Doctor on his own where there started to be a problem. I mean, that Christmas special was terrible. I mean, it's got RTD's name on it, but it didn't feel like an RTD Christmas special. Bland, boring, generic. Ncuti's Doctor, Millie's companion. Generic. That's the word I've been looking for nearly 24 fucking minutes. And now I've found it. It's a perfect thing. New Doctor Who, RTD2, is too fucking generic. That's the problem. And RTD's superior era, his first era, was no way generic. It was creative. It was inventive. It was full of life. Kids, adults, mums and dads, boyfriends and girlfriends, boyfriends and boyfriends, girlfriends and girlfriends could sit there watching it fucking together on a Saturday night before they went partying down the pub or clubs or whatever they were doing. Going out for a meal, whatever. It's no fun to watch Doctor Who anymore. It hasn't been fun for a while. It's become dull, as I say, generic. And this is the problem with RTD2, because it's being policed by a company that's not interested in entertaining us, not interested in making great Doctor Who. As we've already discussed, Doctor Who is under threat from cancellation. All this could be avoided just by making great Doctor Who. And people will say, well, it's not that easy, Mick. It's Russell T Davies. He's already made great Doctor Who. Now, in my reviews of RTD1 and Series 1, I said it seemed like RTD was running out of ideas. And it does seem that way because he is repeating his own themes. He's even hinted at a wheelie bin. Something to do with a wheelie bin. And I went on his Instagram. I'm still on his Instagram. I don't criticise him. I don't go in on him. Always respectful. Always have a bit of banter with him and he likes it. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if actually that, for one episode, you had a wheelie bin and the TARDIS was a wheelie bin? Now, that would be pretty cool. But what worries me about the wheelie bin, that we're just going to repeat Mickey being, like Mickey being swallowed by, the living plastic. I don't know what he's up to there. But anyway, one of the problems with Series 1 of RTD2 is it seemed generic and they were, he was repeating himself. And then when they revealed that this Christmas special would be written by Stephen Moffat, I was a bit confused and surprised. I was happy because I love Stephen. When Stephen first took over, my first view of the Moffat era was RTD was better, Moffat's gone too dramatically different. But actually, rewatching Moffat now, even before RTD returned, so this is not about me saying, oh, he's come back and he said this and that. So because he said things I don't like his era anymore. No, I still love the RTD era. But since rewatching the Moffat era, I think it's actually superior to what RTD did. I've changed my mind. There's so much depth in there, so much interesting themes that Moffat uses. He can be current day as well. He can do some dumb shit as well. But mostly, Moffat does some very interesting things. So I'll be interested in his Christmas special. I actually used to enjoy his Christmas specials because they were very haunting and very Christmassy. Now, someone told me this may be a little bit anti-Christmas and controversial. That wouldn't surprise me. That's where we are. So that wouldn't surprise me. And if that's the case, they're going to continue driving audiences away before the second series comes, before it starts, before it premieres. So people are not going to come in. But this is the problem. The more people complain, the more they dig their heels in. And it's an insane situation. Because what are you going to do in the end? Because obviously the entertainment industry have been able to sustain, the culture war. Because they get a certain amount of audiences. These are multi-million dollar and pound companies, right? And euro companies. So they can sustain the backlash for a while. But it's clear now from what writers say to me, my writer friends say to me, and other people I know in the industry, that they can't sustain this any longer. They're making cutbacks. They're not employing as many writers anymore. It really is an industry that's become a ghost town. Hollywood has become a ghost town. And that's not my words. It's the writers who used to work in Tinseltown telling me this. So Doctor Who is in the real situation where it can be cancelled, where it will be cancelled if they don't get the viewers for season 2. And then, I don't like Disney being involved. I was worried about Disney being involved from the very beginning. I didn't want that. I said that on this platform many a times. And everything that I foresaw has happened. And even the amount of money they're giving to Doctor Who isn't that much. Everyone's going, Disney money. It's going to be amazing. But when you look at it, we didn't go to many planets, did we? Most of it was time travel. Most of it was on Earth. It was a cheap series as well. That's an interesting thing. I said that at the time on airing and broadcast. In fact, I would say they spent more money in RTD's first era and Moffat's era and Chibnall's era than they did on RTD2 and Series 1. So it'll be interesting because Disney are not making the money on it, because the numbers haven't been good, maybe they'll even reduce. Maybe they've already made Series 2. It's going to be broadcast, I think, early next year. So maybe they reduce the budget on Series 2 as well. That'd be interesting to look for as well. But yeah, we're not going to know what's happening till Series 2 is finished broadcast. Unless there's only one way they'll confirm a Series 3 before Season 2 is finished. That's if the ratings are so good that they're really confident and happy. Then they will give us an early announcement. But right now, the future of Doctor Who is looking very bleak. I've always known what I would do with Doctor Who. I would inject life back into it. Maybe even take it to the cinema. Give it a rest on telly and have a Doctor Who movie series every 3 years. That could be interesting as well. The interest for Doctor Who isn't dead, as you can see from me, my body language. I still love Doctor Who. I want more Doctor Who, but I want great Doctor Who. I want whoever's making it to love Doctor Who and stop being damn current day. So there's energy to watch Doctor Who, but it's there. They've driven the audience away. All these IPs are doing it. Everywhere in entertainment is driving people away. You're seeing these stupid actors. When I say actors, I'm not genderizing the name actor. It could be a man or a woman, right? Or whoever, no matter how you identify as. You get into that marketing, you get into that studio being interviewed, and you say some dumb shit. Do you remember the cast member from Black Adam who said something stupid which made the movie get banned in China? There needs to be contracts. There needs to be privacy agreements so they can't say stupid shit in interviews. Otherwise, this industry will not heal and we're going to lose more than Doctor Who.